How does a boy from Tikrit, marked by poverty, betrayal, and violence, become the iron-fisted architect of Iraq's darkest era, only to end in a courtroom hearing his own death sentence read aloud? This story traces the rise, fall, and capture of Saddam Hussein, and what drove a once unquestioned ruler to absolute collapse. To understand the dictator's path to power, we have to start at the beginning. Saddam Hussein was born in 1937 in the village of Al-Auja, just outside Tikrit. His father vanished before he was born, and his mother remarried a man known for harsh discipline. Growing up in poverty, Saddam learned early to rely on his own cunning and to trust family above outsiders. The world he knew was defined by tribal codes, feuds, and the constant risk of betrayal. School records describe a boy who was quick to anger, fiercely proud, and already fluent in the language of Arab nationalism. He resented humiliation and remembered every slight. By his teenage years, Saddam was drawn into the orbit of the Ba'ath Party, a small but radical group promising Arab unity and revolution. Relatives from the Al-Bu Nasir tribe opened doors, but it was Saddam's willingness to take risks that set him apart. At just 22, he was recruited into a clandestine cell tasked with eliminating Prime Minister Abd al-Karim Qasim, whose rule had dashed Ba'athist hopes for a pan-Arab Iraq. On October 7, 1959, Saddam joined 7 other conspirators on Baghdad's Al-Rashid Street. As Qasim's car slowed, the group opened fire. The attack failed. Qasim survived, his driver was killed, and Saddam himself was wounded in the leg. Bleeding and hunted, he escaped first to Tikrit, then across the border into Syria, and finally to Cairo. The failed assassination and the years in exile that followed hardened Saddam's belief in violence and loyalty only to those he could control. These early lessons would shape every decision he made as he moved closer to power. In July 1968, tanks rolled through Baghdad as the Ba'ath Party seized power once again. Behind the scenes, Saddam Hussein worked methodically, rewarding loyalists from his Tikriti clan and the Al-Bu Nasir tribe with key posts in the new regime. Within a year, he controlled the security services and intelligence apparatus, using patronage to bind the party's fortunes to his own. Paranoia and surveillance became routine. Files from the era document how informants tracked even minor party members, while rivals vanished without explanation. The real demonstration of Saddam's rule by fear came 10 years later. On July 22, 1979, just days after becoming Iraq's president, he summoned hundreds of Ba'ath Party officials to a conference hall in Baghdad. The doors were locked. Saddam took the podium, chain-smoking and reading from a list. One by one, he accused senior officials of plotting against the revolution. Some broke down in tears. Others, faces drained of color, confessed to treason in front of cameras, confessions later revealed to have been scripted by Saddam's inner circle. At least 22 men were let out and sentenced to death that same day. The rest were forced to applaud. Party archives and survivor accounts described the chilling effect of the televised purge. The message was unmistakable: absolute loyalty or death. From that moment, terror and spectacle became tools of governance. The regime's power would no longer rest on ideology alone, but on the certainty that dissent could mean public humiliation and execution. The border with Iran erupted into war on September 22, 1980, after Saddam ordered Iraqi forces to cross the Shatt al-Arab. He aimed to seize disputed territory and contain the spread of Iran's Islamic Revolution. What began as a quick campaign dragged into 8 years of trench warfare, bombardments, and mass casualties. Estimates place the death toll between 500,000 and 1 million on both sides. Iraq's cities filled with funerals, and the government funneled every resource into the military machine. Dissent was crushed. Even whispers of defeat could bring arrest or worse. In the north, the war became a pretext for a campaign against the Kurds. In March 1988, Iraqi jets dropped chemical bombs on the town of Halabja. Survivors recall a sweet, sickly smell, then chaos as people and animals collapsed in the streets. Within hours, up to 5,000 civilians were dead: parents, children, entire families. Doctors arriving from abroad found skin burns, blindness, and bodies lined up in silence. The attack was ordered by Saddam's cousin, Ali Hassan al-Majid, who soon became known as Chemical Ali. State documents later recovered described the Anfal operations as a final solution to the Kurdish problem. For the people of Halabja, the scars have never faded. One survivor remembered that the smell was sweet, almost like apples, and then people dropped in the street. Even animals died instantly. These atrocities would later stand at the center of war crimes indictments, their evidence preserved in photographs, medical reports, and the memories of those who lived through the horror. At dawn on August 2, 1990, Iraqi tanks crossed into Kuwait. Within hours, Saddam's troops seized the capital, declared Kuwait Iraq's 19th province, and sent shockwaves through the region. Declassified diplomatic cables reveal that Saddam believed Kuwait was undercutting Iraq's post-war recovery by overproducing oil and demanding repayment on wartime loans. Some senior officials, including Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz, warned of possible American retaliation. Their objections were ignored. The world responded with force. A United States-led coalition launched Operation Desert Storm in January 1991, driving Iraqi forces out of Kuwait in just 6 weeks. The retreat left much of Iraq's military in ruins and its infrastructure battered by airstrikes. In the aftermath, the United Nations imposed sweeping sanctions, freezing Iraq's assets and restricting nearly all trade. These measures were designed to pressure Saddam into compliance, especially with weapons inspections, but the consequences for ordinary Iraqis were devastating. UNICEF and humanitarian reports from the mid-1990s describe hospitals running out of basic medicines, water treatment plants in disrepair, and malnutrition spreading even among middle-class families. Mothers traded wedding rings and family heirlooms for food. While early claims of 500,000 child deaths have since been discredited by later studies, there is no doubt that sanctions deepened poverty, weakened public health, and eroded the social fabric. The Oil for Food program, introduced in 1996, eased some hardship but could not repair the damage. As the decade wore on, isolation hardened Saddam's rule, but it was the Iraqi people who bore the heaviest cost. In late 2002, Western intelligence agencies released dossiers claiming Iraq possessed weapons of mass destruction. Those reports, cited by leaders in Washington and London, described mobile labs, hidden stockpiles, and secret programs. The evidence formed the backbone of the case for war. Coalition troops crossed into Iraq in March 2003, toppling Saddam's regime within weeks. But as the months passed, the promised weapons failed to appear. Teams of inspectors, first under the United Nations, then the Iraq Survey Group, searched government buildings, factories, and remote bunkers. Their final report, delivered in 2004, found no active chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons programs. The evidence that had justified invasion was built on false leads and misread intentions. Some former Iraqi officials later admitted that Saddam deliberately maintained an air of ambiguity, hoping to deter Iran and internal rivals. The absence of weapons of mass destruction undermined the credibility of the coalition and fueled growing skepticism at home and abroad. As the world absorbed the findings, Iraq's new rulers prepared to put Saddam Hussein on trial, shifting global attention from the battlefield to the courtroom. On November 5, 2006, inside a heavily guarded courtroom in Baghdad, the chief judge called for Saddam Hussein to stand and hear the verdict. The charge was ordering the execution of 148 men and boys from Dujail in 1982 after an assassination attempt against his convoy. The room fell silent as the sentence was read: death by hanging. For a moment, Saddam remained motionless, absorbing the words. Then, as guards moved in, he erupted with slogans that echoed across the chamber. "Long live the people! Down with the traitors! Down with the invaders! God is great!" His voice rang out, defiant and unwavering, even as his hands trembled. Judges ordered him to be removed, but Saddam continued, declaring the court illegitimate and accusing its members of serving foreign occupiers. Shouts and applause broke out among co-defendants and onlookers. The judge's gavel pounded for order, but the scene had already shifted into history. A fallen ruler refusing to bow, his last words in court a blend of anger, pride, and denial. No laughter, no bravado, only the raw edge of a man condemned, still fighting for control with every word. Iraq's political fault lines still trace back to decisions made under Saddam Hussein. As rival factions vie for power, the shadow of dictatorship lingers in every negotiation and constitution. The struggle for true stability continues, reminding us that the legacy of tyranny rarely ends with a single verdict.